This is Ahval Online, meeting point of accurate news and free comment on the current affairs of Turkey. Welcome to our podcast series.
Hello and welcome to Ahval's Hot Pursuit. Today we are going to speak about Council of Europe Committee of Ministers decisions on two political prisoners in Turkey, two prominent and symbolic political prisoners. One is Selahattin Demirtaş, imprisoned former co-leader of the pro-Kurdish party, HDP, jailed since November 2016, almost for 5 years. The second one is, again, a prominent figure, Osman Kavala, who is a philanthropist and business person, and also human rights defender, one of the most outstanding figures of civil society struggle in Turkey, jailed, losing his freedom since October 18, 2017, nearly 4 years in prison. Both cases have been severely condemned and criticized for their absurdity, as they call it, and for the cases, the indictments, and also for the harassment, as the critics continue to call it, of these two people. So, Committee of Ministers today have issued two decisions. Joining me from Brussels, an expert, Mr. Yavuz Aydın, former Justice Councillor of the Turkish EU delegation in Brussels, and the judge. Welcome, Yavuz.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you. And let's go into the subjects. Today's two court rulings basically gave Turkey time. In the case of Demirtaş, it practically said to Ankara that you have time until September 30, until you release Demirtaş. In the second case, in Kavala case, again, Committee of Ministers said, you have time until our second meeting in December, until you handle the case positively in favor of Kavala. But the decisions need to be read into. What is your assessment and evaluation of these two decisions?
Yeah, I think these two decisions are very important steps forward taken by the Committee of Ministers under the umbrella of Council of Europe. Because, from various aspects, these two decisions have been very important, actually. Because, first of all, these two decisions about Selahattin Demirtaş and Osman Kavala are the first two decisions by the European Court of Human Rights against Turkey, which found Turkey in violation of Article 18, which means for the first time in these two cases, European Court of Human Rights, the Strasbourg Court said Turkey pursued political motives rather than judicial when deciding on these two cases. So both Osman Kavala, a philanthropist, human rights defender, and Selahattin Demirtaş, a very important political figure in Turkey, the co-leader of the Kurdish HDP. These two people were in prison, put behind bars with political motives. In this aspect, these two decisions underline the fact that the judiciary in Turkey is not independent at all. And from this aspect, this is already very important. But for Osman Kavala, as you said, this decision by the European Court of Human Rights has been in the agenda of the Committee of Ministers since September 2020. Actually, it was June 2020, but because of this COVID measures, it was postponed to September. The first handling of the case was postponed. Along with this last decision of the Committee of Ministers, now there are 6 decisions from Committee of Ministers about the implementation of the case about Osman Kavala, which says immediately release Osman Kavala. And about Selahattin Demirtaş, it came afterwards as the first, it was first taken into the agenda of the Committee of Ministers in March 2021. This was the second time, actually, there was such a decision. And this decision was also very important as Turkey has been invited to actually immediately release Selahattin Demirtaş, but in case Demirtaş would not be released as of the next Committee of Ministers meeting by the beginning of December, a draft resolution, draft interim resolution will be finalized, and that would be another problematic issue before the Turkish government. So, especially about Selahattin Demirtaş, another important aspect of this decision is that the Committee of Ministers showed that the tactics, manipulations made by Turkish government, Erdogan government, they don't work. What are these tactics? You know, we remember from the Osman Kavala case, as if they were implementing the decision by the European Court of Human Rights. Osman Kavala was released on paper. On the very same day, there was another arrest warrant based on another case regarding the same acts, which means the prosecutors and judges apparently and obviously acted under some, how can I say, some orders from the political body, which confirms the breach of Article 18 again, and issued another arrest warrant on the day of the release. And they did the same thing in Selahattin Demirtaş case. While the decision by the European Court of Human Rights about release of Selahattin Demirtaş was based on the trial before Ankara court, in April this year, Court of Cassation just approved another decision by Istanbul Assize Court, and in last June, Turkish government said, "Oh, okay, even if we release that in Demirtaş now, there's another finalized decision about him, so there's nothing we can do at this stage because the judiciary in Turkey is independent and we as the government cannot say anything about this." So this is ironic in itself. But in this decision, Committee of Ministers said that the decision of the Court of Cassation about the finalized case should be reverted. And the other trial before the Ankara court be suspended immediately. So both these cases are within the scope of this same ruling of the European Court of Human Rights, and regardless of the fact that the other decision has been finalized, Selahattin Demirtaş should be immediately released. So this is very important, as these manipulative tactics are not bought by the Committee of Ministers, by the draft.
Yes, and also the lawyers of defense lawyers of Demirtaş sent a letter to Court of Human Rights, European Court of Human Rights, saying that the way Demirtaş was being held in or put in jail and being held in jail so continuously, endlessly, had to do with personal and institutional vendetta against him in order to prevent him to re-enter politics and again continue challenging current President Erdogan, who himself saw Demirtaş as the formidable rival in political race. That is a well-known fact, and that's what was put by the defense lawyers, and the Committee of Ministers seems to have taken this into account as well. So let's instead of continuing with the details, because all these details are documented and easily to be found in internet, Yavuz, let's just try to find an explanation on two things. First is the time frame given to Turkey in the case of Demirtaş, September 30, and in the case of Kavala, early December. What will happen if Turkey follows the same defiant line and doesn't respond, or responds defiantly to European Court of Human Rights? What is the next step? Because there is a way of saying, the interpretation today, when I talked to a lawyer, Orhan Kemal Cengiz, he was saying that due to political considerations such as refugee crisis, anxiety about Afghanistan and consequences of refugee inflow, Turkey's basically keeping the Damocles sword over Europe. All these political considerations may have played a role, may continue to play a role, and the Committee of Ministers again may choose to basically kick the can down the road, postpone it, or not. I don't know. What do you say?
Actually, partly I agree with that argument, because normally, at least about Kavala case, that infringement procedure, the launch of infringement procedure, I will explain what it is, was expected to take place during this last meeting, but it has been postponed again. But at least this time there was another step. At least this time, the Committee of Ministers in their decision said, unless Osman Kavala would be released as of the beginning of December, infringement process will be launched. So this is a very important. This is not a threat. Now this is a decision.
Okay. So we know also that the next month, October 8th, there will be a trial again, a new trial with Osman Kavala. So again, back to a question and a short answer, please. What will happen if Turkey acts defiantly in the case of Demirtaş, September 30, and also in the case of Osman Kavala? Let's say if he is held in prison, what will happen?
The answer to this question lies in the answer to what is this infringement procedure. This infringement procedure is the, how can I say, like this nuclear option in the hand of the Committee of Ministers. And if the contracting party here, Turkish government, if they fail to implement this case, there are different options. Turkey, the Committee of Ministers may ask suspension of voting right of Turkey in the Parliamentary Assembly of Council of Europe. Very important. The other one is suspension of the membership of Turkey in the Council of Europe.
That's a second.
The most extreme one is expulsion of Turkey from the membership of the Council. But this procedure about this infringement procedure was first applied to Azerbaijan in famous and actually infamous Ilgar Mamadov case. So Turkey
a dissident,
will
a political prisoner.
yeah, of course.
Yes,
we can say Osman Kavala of Azerbaijan.
Right.
So Turkey will be the second after Azerbaijan in this case. It's not only about diplomacy. It's about the how Turkey seems. It's about the image of Turkey, and it's about the weight of Turkey in international relations. So I agree that there are some concerns about the cards in Turkish government's hands about like this refugee crisis. And actually, I personally heard from the previous president of the Council of, previous president of the European Court of Human Rights, that they had been thinking about this infringement procedures years before Spano, but they didn't want to work this procedure because if they did so, Turkey would drift away from Council of Europe and Europe much more than it is now.
Former chairman, you're referring to Mr. Raimondi of the...
Yes, Raimondi. Raimondi said this openly, and it's still on the internet, but it's in Italian, but he said this in camera meeting.
So the final question is, again, if the scenario develops and evolves as you describe it, in defiance, in terms of defiance, because Mamedov case, for those who don't know about this case, was a sort of a tug of war between Baku and European Court of Human Rights, Council of Europe, so to speak. And it lasted 6 or 7 years, if I am not mistaken. 7 years. 7 long years. And it is possible that Ankara may be inspired by this process and may choose to copy this process in terms of handling Osman Kavala and Demirtaş cases, and it can drag a little bit more. So maybe therefore, some critics today that I've been speaking to, and our folks from Ahval was speaking to editors, and the lawyer of Demirtaş, and also European Court expert Orhan Kemal Cengiz, they openly expressed their dismay about Minister of the Committee of Ministers not already taking bold action instead of postponing and giving another time frame and basically going about it. Do you agree with that?
Yes, as I said, I partly agree, because this is something gradual. Yes, the Committee of Ministers was expected to take this step already in September, but before September, in June, they hadn't mentioned about this infringement procedure about Osman Kavala, or they hadn't mentioned about drafting an interim resolution about Selahattin Demirtaş. This is at least one step further. So, but after these steps, there are no other steps to take and to postpone this this procedure, this process. So these were the last maneuvers of the Committee of Ministers, I believe. Otherwise, if they don't take the steps which are needed afterwards, December, so then there will be a real and serious problem about the consistency of the Committee of Ministers, and that they wouldn't risk their effectiveness for only this issue, I think, because Turkey is already the second after Russia in non-implementation of the European Court of Human Rights decisions. This is already a well-deserved reputation. They cannot postpone much more, I believe.
Let's again remind our viewers that Selahattin Demirtaş, former co-chairman of pro-Kurdish HDP party, will have been in jail for about 5 years as of November. and Osman Kavala, well-known philanthropist and civil society activist, international figure, will have been without freedom in jail since October 18, 2017 for 4 years. And these two cases are especially, how symbolic for how deeply rooted the political prisoners issue in Turkey in the past 5-6 years. And we shall see how Ankara will deal with them. In any case, their release or their being kept in prison, continued imprisonment, will have not been judicial decisions, but political decisions. In any case, release or not release, because those two are basically political prisoners, especially in the case of Demirtaş, a powerful challenger to Erdogan government. And in the case of Kavala, a powerful symbol for the civil society struggle in Turkey, and known for his engagement in Armenian-Turkish rapprochement, and also the Kurdish issue. So thank you for this contribution, Yavuz Aydın, joining me from Brussels, a judge and former judicial councillor for Turkey's EU delegation years ago. And thanks for all that. And let's continue to follow this case.
You can follow Ahval News Online podcast series through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, and Spreaker. All you need to know about Turkey is here, for your ears, mind, and attention. Thank you for listening to our podcast.